Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. Hometown Ticketing is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection podcast and to provide schools nationwide with the best options for digital ticketing for their events. Visit their website at hometownticketing.com to learn how they can make digital ticketing possible and simple at your school. Thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Heidi Woolsey, Director of Athletics at Wayne High School. Welcome to the podcast, Heidi.
Thanks, Hut.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in Utah and across the nation where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Well, I grew up in Panguitch, Utah, and I went to college at SUU, Southern Utah University, and my first job was just coaching at Panguitch High School while I was still going to college, and then my first and only job, I guess, as teaching was at Wayne High School.
What year did you start at Wayne?
1991. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, so you're in year 31 now.
I am.
You're past that retirement age. You're creeping up on me. So let's talk for a moment about the possible youth sport opportunities you may or may not have had growing up in Panguitch, right there in the shadow of Bryce Canyon National Park.
Well, I did youth softball, I guess, and some youth programs both here and at Wayne High School. And I think that's about it.
Your decision to attend SUU, which would have been SUSC back when you went there, the coaching factory, was that because it was close or you always wanted to go there, or?
A little bit of both. I tried to walk on to the basketball team over there when this is going to be a long time. Goonie Adams was the coach down there, and that didn't work out very well. So
that's great. So let's talk for a moment about some of the mentors, teachers, coaches, bosses, parents that had an influence on you. Share with our audience those people.
Well, one of the biggest people, as far as going to school at SUU and moving on, it was Dr. Steve Lund. And I'm sure a lot of us older folks remember him. He helped me through school and helped me enjoy sports. And another one was Farrell Heaton down to Valley High School. He helped me along, and he also helped me get my job over to Wayne High School. So those are the two people that come to mind when you talk about mentors.
That's excellent. And so you met Farrell after you began teaching at Wayne, or obviously before, because he helped you get the job?
I knew Farrell from when I was playing ball back in high school. He was coaching. And so
he was coaching at Orderville, at Valley, and you were playing at Panguitch.
Right. And so we got to know each other a little bit back then, and then we stayed in contact. And then, of course, we coached against each other, me at Panguitch and him at Valley. And we just kind of kept close, and he gave me some good ideas and kind of got me started into the coaching world.
Hopefully you had a little bit more success against him than I did. I only played Farrell's team once. This is back in the in the 90s. And we had gone down to play a doubleheader. We usually went St. George, Cedar City, that type of thing. And Cedar couldn't play us, so we figured we'd go over and play Orderville. And I thought, well, I don't know how tough of a game it's going to be, but he just cleaned our clocks. I'll bet he beat us 25 points, just thumped us. And our girls are saying, well, they're not a very big school. How did they get to be so good? I said, I don't know, but we got a lot of stuff we got to work on. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, he's a smart man in the world of basketball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's good.
Let's talk about, I'm assuming you haven't been the athletic director since 1991 at Wayne. That came later on.
Correct.
So probably after it was like, so do you take Kerry's place when he was there, or was someone else there?
When
Okay.
Kerry retired, I just kind of got funneled into that job. I think that was about 16, 17 years ago.
Okay, so we're talking maybe what, 2007, 2008-ish?
Yes, around there.
And let me get this straight. So the faculty at Wayne High can't be that huge because it's a 1A school. So were you the natural person to have to talk you into it? Did you say, I want the job? Or did they say, you have to take this job for the good of the high school?
There was a little bit of both. I was one of the coaches that had been probably coaching there the longest that was left after Kerry left. And the principal just said, here's this job. And if you want it, that's okay. If you don't want it, you're still having it. So, that's just kind of how it turned out.
You got voluntold this is the job you were going to take.
That's it.
All right, let's talk for a moment then about, so you've been the AD for 16, 17 years. How has the job changed since you first became AD back in 2007, 2008?
Oh my goodness. You know, it used to just be that ADs would just do, you know, make out some checks for officials, you know, make sure there was concessions for the night, and just kind of some of those silly jobs, I'll say. And now it's more of a, you get connected with the kids and other athletic directors around the region and around the state. You're more in charge of doing advertisements, and making sure the kids get what they should be recognized for throughout the state or locally in our schools. So it's changed a lot. So,
and in your view of things, is that change for the better, for the worse, or is it just to be expected? I can remember when I was still working as an AD, I had stacks and stacks of paper, which I'm sure you did. And then we got to register my athlete. Everything is online now. Do you like that? Has that been a good thing? Most people have. I know I would have loved it, because it's two file cabinets full of papers on kids that I wouldn't have to have. But I want your opinion on that.
Oh, I think it's for the better by far. You know, it took a little bit to get used to it. Us older people like myself, we have a hard time going from paperwork to computer work, but I wouldn't ever want to go back to that. That's so hard. So yeah, it's much more, I think, best for the athletic administrators to do it with Register My Athlete and everything online with the, you know, even the UIAAA.
Right. Let me ask you this question, a little bit of a personal question. What's your biggest failure or disappointment, and professionally, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, I don't know if this has to do with what you're asking, but I had a couple failures in the state championships of basketball. Definitely my fault for the kids not winning the games. And I guess my thing that I learned the most of it was being prepared and making sure that, you know, you can learn as much as you need to get in the situations that you're going to get thrown at you. And so, you know, that's just what I learned, is make sure that, the preparations there before you get into it. So
That's some great insight. Thank you for sharing that. Let me have you speak to being a female AD at one of the smaller schools in Utah. And I'm not sure what it's like nationally, and I know we're trying to increase the number of female ADs we have in Utah. We don't have a great amount, but I think it's starting to grow. But talk about from your point of view, because obviously that would be different from mine, being retired and being out of the active AD profession for at least 9 years now. But talk to maybe some of the good things of being a female AD, maybe some of the struggles you've had. Let's just talk about that for a moment.
I think some of the good things is, yes, definitely we're seeing more females get involved with the athletics all the way through, like from football to swimming. I mean, they're all taking part in all the various sports that are available instead of just one female sport, so to speak. And, I remember when I started going to the UIAAA conference, I'd look around the rooms, there were like 5 females in the room, but there's becoming a lot more that's, more prominent. And as far as me personally, I think when I first started, it was like, we really don't need your input. I don't know if that was because I was new or because I was a female, but that's kind of the way I took it as. But you know what? Things have changed now in the world, and I don't think it matters female, male. People listen to you regardless if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, some great insight. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you a question kind of unique to you. I think about the time when I was down visiting Capitol Reef. This has got to be, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, because as you know, I'm a little bit older and I forget things. I was at the for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. We stopped for some ice cream cones for my kids, for my grandkids and my kids that we were traveling with. That's just a little, it's, I guess it would be the McDonald's of Wayne County, although it's not. I can't remember the name of it. But this truck pulls up and these 3 kids get out of the back, and it was right when Wayne County was beginning to start a football program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want you to talk about that at a very small 1A school, how difficult that was, what were some of the successes. And I think now probably you had it for a couple of years and don't. So I wanted to ask you about being the AD and what that process was and how tough it was.
Well, it was a unique situation. We had a gentleman in the county that was just a fan. That was his love, was football, and he'd coached in different states. And he knew how to, I guess, get sponsorships from the area. Plus, I think he had some unique donors that he had contact with. Anyway, he's the one that developed everything, got the field. I mean, we had the property on obviously our track, the infield. He got everything going. And, the only things I really had to do with that is just kind of follow the progress of the field. And then the equipment he took care of, the uniforms he took care of. So really, I did the officials, and that's about it. I mean, I had to listen to why are we having football? Why don't we have something else? But the community finally jumped into it and thought this is going to be a great thing. And then I guess I'm thinking why people decided they didn't want to come out on a Friday night to watch football was because we never won a game. And then we lost the interest with the students. So, we could only get 6, 8, 10 kids coming out for football. So it was a good thing to see the kids jump into it, because I think they learn a lot more while they're involved with football. But I also think that the program just didn't take off, I think, like it should have.
Well, for so many years you didn't have it. Another follow-up question I have to you is, I know that Wayne has been really successful in fall baseball. When you had football during that time, did you still have the fall baseball, or did you take a few years off from fall baseball when the football was on? Did they conflict with each other? Were kids playing both? How did that work?
That's a good question. That didn't work well at all. We had a very successful baseball team or program throughout the years. And when football and baseball were in the same season, our baseball coach was adamant he didn't want to go to spring baseball because of our weather situation down here. And so he was fighting that, and the football coach was fighting that. But if we could have got, I don't know, spring baseball, and I'm not a real fan of that happening, but we'd have had two good teams, two good programs. We'd have had the good baseball program, and then we'd had all those athletes playing football, and that would have made a big difference.
Well, that's fascinating. It's something obviously I never had to deal with, being at a much larger school up in the metropolitan Salt Lake area. You've got athletes everywhere. And in the 1A school, I think it's important for our listeners to understand that there's just so many kids, and of those kids, there's just so many athletes, and that's all you have to choose from. And so life is a little bit different. Let's switch gears now and talk for a moment about your journey with the UIAAA, how you became involved, how you started going to conference, some of the people you've met, how you became part of the UIAAA family.
Well, I remember probably the biggest thing was when, I don't know, it's been quite a while ago, obviously, but my principal wanted me to go to region board meetings with him. And so I started going to region board meetings, and then that was introduced to me by the region board. And then I became involved with the UIAAA. I was one of the, I don't know, representative of our region. Right. And then I became more involved from Rick Rose over to Milford. He got me kind of going into the UIAAA because he did the same thing. And so that's kind of where I got started, get involved with that.
And has that been a good thing for you? Has it been a bad thing? Talk about, for our younger ADs out there, the importance of becoming involved in your state association.
Oh, I think it was a great thing. And I look forward every year to the conference in April. And the reason being is because there's so many other ADs there that you can just sit down and visit with them and find out what they're doing. They find out what we're doing. And it's just a good time to get with your counterparts and say, you know, what's going on, what's not going on. And then the people that you guys bring in for us to listen to. I remember I was fascinated by Dr. Green, I think is, if I get that right.
No, it's Lee Green, absolutely.
Lee Green, yes. I was amazed with all his presentations. He was amazing to listen to. So anyway, that's kind of a sidetrack, but yeah, I wouldn't be where I was as far as doing things that we do at Wayne High School unless I'd have been involved with the UIAAA. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for your years of being a member and your years of contributions. What's one common myth about being an athletic director that you would like to debunk?
Well, at least in my school and whatnot, I should say at Wayne High School, people think that being an athletic director is just going to ball games.
They think that no matter what school you're at, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Continue.
And our principal, who's a year in, he thought, and this is perfectly understandable, but he thought that an AD paid the officials and then just went to the games. And so I think it should be known, maybe people do it differently, but I have one prep to do athletic directors, and then I have the rest teaching. And you've got to have a lot more time than that to, even in a small school, to take care of all of that, the duties that you have. So I'd like to debunk that with younger athletic directors, anybody else that may listen to this, because you have a lot to do, and sometimes you don't get any time to do it. So if I was young, instead of in my 31st year, I would strongly make sure that there's time enough during the day, because you've got a lot of time after ball games are over that you still have to do stuff. So yeah,
that is so very well said. And thank you for
Well,
making the plug, because as you know, we've been trying to, we've gone to the legislature over the past couple of years. We're trying to get more money for people that are certified. We're trying to talk to districts to give their ADs more time, because as you said, they need them. Because I just can't, your answer is such a great answer, even though it's been a common answer for a lot of the broadcasts, because people just think, well, they're the AD, they get to go to games. As a matter of fact, I was listening to a football broadcast at one of the larger schools here in Utah. And they mentioned that the football coach was retiring. He was going to become the AD so he can get to go watch games. And I'm thinking to myself, really? You just said that? Because that reinforces that misnomer out there. But that is so very well said. Let me ask you, what's the favorite part of your job, Heidi?
Oh, the number one thing, which I hope all athletic directors think, is watching the kids grow, from start to finish, their freshman year to their senior year. And at least at our school, I get to know the kids a lot better through athletics. You get to see when they have issues. They may come in and visit with me, and then you help, or at least watch them work through those problems and become a stronger, better person for that. It's got to be the kids. That's number one for me.
Great answer and great insight. And I would say, well, I'm trying to think of a guest we've had on the show that hasn't said the kids, because if it's not the kids, then you're probably in the wrong business. And so thank you so much for sharing that. Let's finish up with a couple of questions, Heidi. The first one being, you've got 2 suggestions for a brand new AD in order to become a success. What would your 2 suggestions be for that person, that they would need to follow these suggestions to become a successful athletic administrator?
I think, if I'm understanding your question right, I think they need to get involved with the UIAAA, most definitely. And I think they need to get ideas from other athletic directors or athletic administrators as to what they're doing, because obviously sometimes your ideas, like my ideas, aren't the best. I could be doing something different. And if I talk to other people out there, do some networking, I would strongly suggest that to anybody, young, medium, old like me. I think there's still everybody has good ideas, so talk to other people. So
great suggestions. Thanks for sharing. Let's finish up with this, Heidi. What question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Oh, I think maybe fundraising at a small school. How do we do that?
Well, then let me interrupt you then, and let me have you pontificate on that, because I would have no idea. I never teaching in a small community with a small number of athletes. That's got to be difficult Maybe it was easy for your football coach because he had some connections, but that's got to be a huge thing. So let's delve into that just for a second.
Okay, well, first off, our district doesn't give our athletic programs a budget. So we start out at $0.
With nothing. Wow.
Nothing. Yeah. And then I guess the second part of that is whatever the programs need for equipment or for uniforms, that's out of their own program that the kids have done fundraisers for, and they have to use money that kids have went out and got to pay for that equipment, etc. And then the other part is, well, and I guess one other thing with those students doing fundraisers, that also goes to help pay for the officials. So it's hard for kids to go out and do that much fundraising in a small area like we are. And we only have, I don't know, 70 kids that actually participate in the athletics at Wayne High School. Then the second thing is we've developed using electronics in our small gym, but putting up the big screen and running ads on that. This is our first year doing that, by taking all the banners down and just putting that TV up has been pretty successful, but it doesn't make a lot of money because we've only got 20 businesses around that we can actually hit up for money. So it's tough. And I don't think people understand that at small schools, especially in Wayne School District, we don't get athletic budgets. So.
Well, that's a fascinating story. And I really am fascinated about, you're the second AD I've had in the last 6 weeks of broadcasts that has talked about having a big screen or more than one big screen in the gymnasium for your banners and for your ads rather than having separate banners on the wall. So I really like that idea. And on that note, we're going to wrap up another edition of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our guest today has been Heidi Woolsey, Director of Athletics at Wayne High School. Heidi, thanks so much for being on the program today.
Thank you, Hutch. Have a good one.
Thank you. And for our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.